This is another photo that is from the Rocky Mountains on our trip there this summer. This is in Rocky Mountain National Park. My family and our friends and I drove through, I think it's called Trail Ridge Loop Road, or maybe just Trail Ridge Loop. I forget. Something with Trail Ridge in the name. If you've been to the area, you feel free to correct me. I don't mind at all. And this particular drive goes really high. The reason that you're only seeing grass here is we're above the tree line. This is basically tundra. And it was so cool to be at like 12,000 feet. And no matter where you look, you just see these huge sweeping vistas of the Rocky Mountains all around you. And it's hard to capture that in a photo. Last week I had a photo of Emerald Lake, and I don't know that it captures the essence of the Rocky Mountains, but it's better than nothing. And this one, you hardly see any mountains in it at all. Like, it might as well just be a field somewhere. But it's still, like, you can tell in the way background, there's that little hill on the back on the left hand side, and hopefully you get like some sort of sense of scale here. I don't think it says 12,000 feet, but I don't know, it's still a cool photo. But I think what did it for me on this particular photo, like the challenge of this photo, was how to take a picture of this female elk. My natural instinct was to just get a zoom lens and zoom in as far as I possibly could, but I didn't have my zoom lens with me. I left that at my car. We parked at I think it was a visitor center, and some of us hiked to the top of this mountain peak that you see here. I mean, it's not like we did a strenuous hike. I think there was stairs that were like made out of granite that the Park Service put there. But we went up to the top, and we're looking around, and then our way back down, we see this female elk, and all I had was my iPhone and my Fuji camera. And I was like, oh man, like if there's one time that I want a zoom lens, and this would be it. But you do what you gotta do, right? I decided to make the most of it, and I didn't wait too long. Like, I didn't want to delay the whole thing. Like, the kids are getting tired, and I just wanted to see if I get a photo of this elk. So I went with the classics here, like the rule of thirds. I put this elk, as I'm framing up the photo on my camera, about at the intersection of the lower and right-hand third. And is that always the best way to make a photo? Probably not. There's other ways. Is there too much blue space on the sky above that cloud? Yeah, maybe. But I think it works out pretty well, all things considered. The elk, I mean, obviously I couldn't tell it what to do, but it was eating and then moving and then eating and moving. And it would kind of lift its head up and look around. And I played around with a couple different compositions, like put the elk on the left-hand side, put the elk in the middle. That did not work at all. I really like how this ended up with the elk on the right-hand side, looking off towards the left-hand side. And then you have all that empty space on the left-hand side. And it's almost like the elk is looking out into that portion of the photo. And I actually like how the elk is not well, I was going to say it's well-defined. It is well-defined. You can see the silhouette really nicely, and you can see that little patch of brown, but you can't really see any detail. It almost looks like it's photoshopped in there, but it's not, I promise you. It's this stark contrast. You have these bright whites and blues of the sky, the greens in the foreground, and then this silhouette, this stark black, dark silhouette of this elk. And it's unmistakable. Like, it's clearly that type of animal. You might say, well, maybe it's a deer or something, but the way that comes together, like just the sky by itself and the grass by itself, it wouldn't have made an interesting photo. But the elk there, in the break between the clouds, like, I'm just so happy with how it turned out. And in retrospect, I think I'm actually glad I didn't have my zoom lens, because if I had my zoom lens, I think I would have just taken a bunch of zoomed in photos of an elk and it wouldn't have been special at all. But this forced me to think a little bit differently of how can I compose an interesting shot using only my Fuji and not much else at my disposal. And I think it actually worked out pretty well.